just rewatched Days of Future Past last night for the fun of it. So good. What did the Fox X-Men movies do best and worst in your opinion? What did they do best? That's tough because Fox X-Men is like about a 20-year long franchise that wasn't set up to be a 20-year long franchise. So maybe that helps to say what it does worst. The worst thing it did was tried to turn itself into like the MCU without a proper reset. And they half did it. They did all these halfsy moves. So you have the original trilogy of X-Men films that are a classic trilogy. That thing works in and of itself. It has its issues, especially with the third one, but it works on its own. But then they went, now we want to do spin-offs. And it was going to be a Wolverine and Magneto spin-off origin story, and then that was tweaked into X-Men Origins Wolverine and First Class. So it kind of happened that way, but it kind of also was quite a different version from what was originally announced to being done. But they do X-Men Origins Wolverine, and even that movie in and of itself is like, that feels like we're doing some things in here that I don't think this really fits with the continuity that's established. But it was enough prequel that you could do it and it would work well enough. Didn't break too many things with the continuity. It just wasn't good. It was a terrible version of Deadpool. And no, that's not true. That's not true. With what they do with Sabretooth, it's not compatible with the first X-Men movie. So maybe right there was whenever they went, oh, wait, we don't want to be limited by the first X-Men movie. So if we've got a better actor, a better backstory, a more interesting dynamic, let's do that. And so right there, as soon as they did X-Men Origins Wolverine and had Sabretooth in there with this very dense, rich history between both of them, they just broke their continuity. And then you get to X-Men First Class and it's just like, what are we doing? Like this continuity doesn't work. I love that movie. Not angry with the movie, but the big issue all along the way was they didn't set it up to be a 20-year-long continuity with spin-offs, prequels, and everything like that. And so that lack of forethought, because they tried to convert something that wasn't the MCU into an MCU, it was messy as can be all along the way, to the extent that even they were like, yeah, well, I mean, Logan it's kind of its own thing. It's kind of implied that that other stuff exists there, but it's also kind of its own thing. Then like Deadpool, like how does this fit in? Like is this in that universe, or is it just jokey in that universe? All of that stuff. And it worked because it was meta and you got away with it, but that's what it does worst. What does it do best? I don't, it's tough to give it like, this is the best thing that universe did, because its bests are so different, and maybe the best and worst thing is the same thing. They were more concerned with what's a good movie to make than let's have a strong continuity. So X-Men First Class is awesome. I love X-Men First Class. I don't know how it fits it messes with the continuity. So they allowed them the freedom to do that, but it compromised the continuity as a whole. And then, Days of Future Past creates it tries to fix, but also kind of does its own things to break the continuity in its own ways. And then let's do Deadpool. Let's just do this pocket little fourth wall breaking thing that we're going to the X Mansion, but it's always like winking at the audience the whole time. And Colossus shows up, but it's not the Colossus we met before. And Hugh Jackman is a mask. Like what? We're doing all this stuff and they did that. And the movie's a ton of fun, obviously loved and made a ton of money. Made more money than any of the other X-Men movies. And then you do Logan, and once again, it's this very powerful story, but it's also like, we're not really trying to say that this is in continuity with everything else. Those are the same thing. It's the best thing and the worst thing. They allowed them to make awesome individual stories at the cost of a continuity that makes any sense. I think that's probably what I would say. In the history of the genre, the original X-Men and X2 were really important as just groundbreaking films that at a point in time where there were not a lot of comic book movies they were kind of cutting the path. And then Spider-Man steps in between X1 and X2 and really takes it to this whole other level. But they were cutting the path, and they did something that worked. That in and of itself was special at the time, because there was just so few comic book movies that were blockbusters that worked. In particular, is Marvel films. The first big Marvel film was X-Men, maybe Blade. You can debate the budget and which one is bigger and what, but when you thought Marvel, Blade was like a C-level character that they were able to turn into a hit movie because it's just a cool vampire martial arts film with style and a cool Wesley Snipes. But it wasn't the Marvel wasn't the selling point. X-Men were incredibly popular in the 90s because they had some great comic book runs, and because of X-Men the Animated Series, people that were my age, that were kids in the early 90s, I was reading comics, I had the toys, and I watched X-Men the Animated Series, and I had the trading cards, and it's like, wait, they're doing a movie now? And then 2 years later, you get Spider-Man. And so also just being trendsetters. They were part of cutting the path. So that would be my quick thoughts on what they did well and what they did bad. Most of these clips are pulled from my Patreon live streams. I do about 6 live streams every single month. For $2 per month, $20 per year, you can get access to all the exclusive videos and live streams. For $5 per month, you get your name on my end card. At the top tier, you get a 30-minute video chat with me each month. The link down below in the description has more information.